Thanks so much. Great to be back at Mpact, and great to be talking about downtowns and how they are actually coming back. And transit is too. So this is research that I've done with my wonderful students in planning and engineering at Berkeley, plus a team at University of Toronto. Shout out to the Berkeley peeps who have really fueled the rail evolution in this country over the last 30 years. So we, downtowns fall and come back time after time after disasters. And part of it is because transit is the backbone of cities, and transit is what makes that density possible, density of residents, density of jobs, density of visitors. Highways nearly destroyed cities. The cities that are doing best and coming back are the ones that have already taken down their highways. Europe, there's a whole other story, but Europe actually spared its cities by putting the highways around instead of through them. So downtown, beginning of the pandemic, we saw it empty out, and people started proclaiming the death of downtown. We said, well, we don't think this is actually true, and we think we can use mobile phone, cell phone trajectories to prove it. So we used SafeGraph and then Spectus data. 18 million cell phones across North America, tracked cell phone activity, really looking at what was happening in the downtown areas. This is what it looks like. This is the type of data we get, for instance, in Toronto. And this is the sort of impact you can see in the city using this type of data, very powerful data. So this is Toronto, the downtown's in red. This is before the pandemic. This is when the pandemic hits, boom, the red goes way down. And then after the pandemic is easing up, you see that comeback. And what's interesting here, lots of activity downtown, right, before the pandemic. Pandemic hits, and then post-pandemic, you start to see downtown coming back a little bit, but the areas all around in the neighborhoods, the more suburban areas, the suburban job centers, coming back maybe even a little bit faster than downtown. And this pattern we're still dealing with today. So this is how we define downtowns based on job densities. We use what we call a recovery rate, which actually compares activity today to activity in the same season before the pandemic. You can go to our website, downtownrecovery.com. I bought this for $3 at the outset of the pandemic. Nobody else cared about downtown. It's now worth $2,000. So invest in domains is really good. So this is our rankings. They've been covered in many, many different venues. But overall, we're finding that the downtowns are back at about 74% on median. And it varies a lot across different regions, with the southwest of the US really doing the best, and then some of the Pacific Coast and northeastern cities and Midwestern cities struggling. The Midwestern here are in the light blue, and right now in our rankings they're at the very lowest. Europe did very, very differently. So we compared this to downtowns in Europe, which are defined more by history and by culture than by office districts. And guess what? They came back at a much, much faster rate than any North American downtown. So it's a lesson for us for thinking about, what do we want our downtowns to be now that the office district is probably obsolete? Maybe we need to think about cultural and historical uses downtown. Now, by the way, we can look building by building, block by block, and this is really helpful as we work with cities to figure out how they want to come back. So we ran a model to figure out what matters, what is driving the comeback of some cities, and why are some coming back so much faster than others. So we looked at a variety of variables, and I'll share some of the correlations with you, and then the overall model results. So biggest negative correlation, professional jobs. So those downtowns that really were over-concentrated in professional jobs, like management consulting, lawyers, accountants, the folks that don't need to be together to be productive, they're not doing so well. Many of these actually were in the Class B and C space that is really, really suffering in downtowns. So negative correlation with professional jobs, negative correlation also with financial and insurance jobs, positive correlation if you happen to have a lot of hotels and food services downtown. This is, I think, why the southwestern downtowns, Phoenix, some other places have really thrived. Salt Lake City and others have done really well. Population density, sadly, is negatively correlated with downtown recovery. So people right now are avoiding density. They're avoiding population density and they're avoiding employment density. I think, using our long view as urbanists, I think this is a temporary trend. I don't think this will last, but we'll see. Commuting by car. Now, please don't push me off the stage. But the cities that are recovering fastest are relying on car commuters. And, you know, so again, let's just hope by next year this correlation's gone. I'll come back and show it. And you know, maybe we'll have a better picture. But, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, people just didn't want to be around people. They wanted to be in their cars. And this has really affected how quickly downtowns come back. Commute times, this is a major, major factor. The longer the commute time, the less likely your downtown is to recover. So people just don't like those long commutes anymore. And I think this one is here to stay. I don't think we're going to see people doing the mega commutes anymore. So we ran a random forest regression model on this to figure out what mattered most. And just to zoom in here a little bit, you can see the top ones here have to do with the economy, and transit, particularly long commutes, even more than just reliance on transit. It's those mega commutes that are problematic. Okay, so we're just starting to look at transit, and I just want to give a shout out to Tracy Haddon-Lowe at Brookings Institution, who already has a terrific paper on this and made many, many great points, and I just stole 2 of them, but I wanted to steal 10 of them. One of her great points is that you know, we have off-peak ridership that is recovering much quicker than peak hour ridership. And then second point is about bus services, and that we see a lot of much more quicker recovery in bus service than we're seeing in rail lines. And I would argue that has to do with essential workers, and she makes some of that case in her work as well. So we looked at this, we looked at the correlation between downtown recovery and transit recovery, and found that they are positively correlated. So they go hand in hand. You want to have both. Cities that are, downtowns are coming back, they're also seeing a resurgence in their transit system. This differs across type of transit, though. So positive correlation with bus ridership, negative correlation with light rail. So light rail is not that tightly connected to the fate of downtown. It's connected to the fate of other things, but not as closely connected as bus ridership or as metro subway ridership or as commuter rail. Naturally has the highest correlation with downtown recovery. One last study I want to mention, we just started doing a study of transit-oriented neighborhoods and comparing them to those without transit. So in here, this is Toronto, this is the red neighborhoods have access to a subway stop, the green are the controls that don't. We do a little model, see which one's doing better. So it turns out that recovery rates are higher in TOD neighborhoods. So TOD neighborhoods are more resilient than the ones without it, controlling for a whole mess of factors. So, we'll be publishing that one soon. So policy implications, make sure we diversify our downtown economies, our land uses. We've got to think more about residential, but we've also got to think more about cultural uses, arts, using and repopulating our space with pop-ups and startups. Make it easier to convert buildings, make sure that downtowns are of course, affordable. I advocate lots of new student housing downtown as a way of getting a lot of activity there, but also, you know, more affordable housing downtown, since we're losing that proximity to opportunities often in our cities. This is a great place to put affordability. And then finally, investing strategically in transit and walkability. I think we need to double down on transit. It is coming back, but we can do even better. Downtown is for people who could say it better than Jane Jacobs. She wrote that in 1957, guys. That was, what, 66 years ago or something? And we still haven't figured it out. We got to make sure our downtowns are for people. So that's our website, and thank you very much.